Well, thank you for being here and taking the time to hear what I have to say. And My name is Paul Romero, and I'd like to be the next governor of the great state of Oregon. As I travel Oregon, you need to know something about me. I don't give up. I understand that nothing worth doing is easy and requires an excessive amount of tenacity, commitment, conviction, endurance, and perseverance. Oregon can't afford another absent governor who has to hide from their gross and obvious failures, all in the name of wokeness and fascism. Some say I'm too young, and in some ways, I'd like to agree with the young part, but not the life experience part. Being at the start of Generation X, which became known as Generation Extreme, well, we were extreme. We rode bikes and skateboards without helmets and pads like today, and yet we survived, and we pushed the envelope in many ways. I must admit, the younger generations, mine included, have the energy and potential to do great things, but never at the expense of our freedom and liberty. We can't let anyone into office who willfully undermines or compromises our fundamental and basic civil rights. Remember that. You'll thank me later. There are those who say the younger generations don't care about politics. They're absent. They don't vote. They say this to get us to not care, to be absent, and to not vote. They are counting on you to not show up. It also makes it easier for them to cheat. Now, I'm here to tell you that your future is about your choices, not theirs. So today, I'm here to put them on notice that 18 to 56-year-olds of Oregon are about to give them the shock and awe they deserve. Come November, I want them to know that because of young people like you and me, the old elite element will be metaphorically kicked through the goalposts of life if that's what it takes to get Oregon back to a free state. My opponents benefit from long-time political connections and future favors covered by the millions poured into their campaigns. As for me, I only need your endorsement. If you want signs and commercials, then I'm going to need the grassroots financial support. So what do you want? The continuation of the status quo in my opponents, or a new beginning for all Oregonians? My money is on all of you doing the write-in thing to make Oregon ours again. So now I'm going to read to you the most recent updated version of my contract with Oregon so you know what I propose as your next governor. So as a write-in candidate for all Oregonians, I submit the following contract with Oregon for Oregonians. I would like to thank Speaker Newt Gingrich for his inspiration and his commitment to America through his contract with America 1994. Together, we have witnessed the failures of both Democrats and Republicans in our state, all at the expense of the people. This must end. As a sovereign, freedom, and liberty-loving people, we all must find common ground, not middle ground. What is good for us all should not leave any Oregonian out in the cold. Rights or freedoms taken from one in order to favor another is a violation of our founding principles. I am committed with absolute conviction to accomplish the following as your governor. This is a live document, so please understand that life and circumstances are not stagnant, and neither can our plan to right the wrongs. We will adjust based on progress and new knowledge. I will work with the people of Oregon, the legislature, county commissioners, and constitutional sheriffs to engage the following. Day one, end critical race theory, social and emotional learning, culturally and linguistically responsive learning, restorative justice, comprehensive sex education, gender theory, and all divisive education from all public schools. We will return to the previous limited sex education classes requiring parental permission for participation and full transparency. Per existing law, civics will be 4 years in high school, with additional preparatory civics for being an American citizen to occur from the 6th to the 8th grade. Schools will only close for holidays and snow days. We need to restore excellence in Oregon education. The Pledge of Allegiance and American flag will be restored to all Oregon's classrooms. A full audit of the 2020 and 2022 elections. Audit and review with full transparency of all voting systems employed throughout Oregon. We need to return to polling stations and hand counting of the vote with voter certification. Executive order directing the immediate emergency repair of water supply issues throughout Oregon. the curtailment of power being exercised by the Bureau of Reclamation, whereby they are draining reservoirs to clean riverbeds. Evaluate with potential implementation an infrastructure project to recycle fresh water from our rivers back up to reservoirs. Not all fresh water needs to go into the ocean. Implement the proven orographic cloud seeding process currently used by Idaho under HB 266 and 12 other states. This is not chemical geoengineering or chemtrails. This will address farming, ranching, wildlife, environment, and recreational water issues that are plaguing our state due to the poor resource management and natural environmental factors of the past. We need to let it rain, and we need to stop people from draining our reservoirs. We need to restore individual freedoms and personal privacy by rescinding all masking, testing, and vaccine mandates for all of Oregon and state employees. Public places will honor public access, and occupancy of any establishment will only be limited by approved fire OSHA schedules. Medical freedom is a civil right, and that must be protected. The restoration of parental rights in education and nullify all laws that violate parental rights of minors per the U.S. Supreme Court rulings. This has already been decided, yet Oregon legislature has chosen to ignore it. We will rescind the cat tax and remove regulations interfering with the propagation of businesses in Oregon. Declaration to combat and prevent human trafficking, holding those guilty of participation to fully account and providing support to survivors. A full stop to the new Green Deal. 4 laws here in Oregon. Oregon has the lowest carbon footprint in the world already, a mere 0.002. The current carbon footprint of the world is the lowest for the duration that it has actually been measured. That's impressive, and it is the truth. A full review of all district attorneys and judges for dereliction of duty and failure to uphold and enforce the law in accordance with crime and punishment and in abeyance of the Constitution. A full investigation into each county leadership, starting with Clackamas County. This is currently operational now with a court case in Washington County that's already been scheduled and occurring on September 20th and 21st. We await the results. Sanctuary cities will be banned, notably in regard to immigration. The whole state of Oregon will be a sanctuary for the Constitution, as intended. Social Security fairness and protection. No state taxation or garnishment allowed for retired senior citizens, notably zero property tax. Those that implemented forced closures, vaccines, masks, and tests will be held criminally and civilly liable as they willfully became accessories to these crimes perpetrated on all Oregon citizens. These also violate the Nuremberg Code and our basic rights under the Constitution. In honor of Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, we're going to establish the position of Chief Transformation Officer to review all government agencies, beginning with the Oregon Department of Motor Vehicles and the Oregon Employment Department. Every department must be audited, and that is one of my goals and ambitions in the course of being your next governor. We have to lean the machine properly. We have to get the performance out of the people that we do employ and get the taxpayers the best boom for their buck. Year 1, the goal will be to eliminate income tax, end the annual 3% automatic property valuation increases, cut property tax by 50%, and work towards zero property tax. Retirees will enjoy zero taxes on income and property on day 1. All future taxes will require a vote of the people, and the legislature, in the course of this new bill, will not be able to override the will of the people. The immediate infrastructure recovery of computer systems and security improvement of all electronic communications. And as I mentioned before, it's going to be time for us to go back to the old school of voting. Precincts under 1,000 people. You come in, you show your ID, you sign the book, you get your ballot, you do your ballot, they tear off the stub, and that way you can actually go back online to check your own ballot. All committee meetings and legislative sessions will be public and available for review by the public live via the internet. Attendance by the public in the Capitol will not be infringed upon. All bills brought to my desk that are in violation of the federal or state constitution will be vetoed. Taxpayer funding of abortion will be vetoed. We already know taxpayers do not want to fund abortion. This is not necessarily a Christian thing. This has to do with voters. They want to see their money going to the real needs of the state. not somebody else's indiscretion. Bills will address single issues with no pork earmarks or favors and be spelled out in an easily understood manner. Existing laws that are repugnant to the state and federal constitution will be reviewed for revision or nullification. Notably, parental rights bills that have violated parental rights will be nullified in accordance with the U.S. Supreme Court ruling. Establish and protect parental rights, notably in public education, health, safety, and welfare. Severe penalties for infringement and violation by any agency or individual. The revamp of CPS, Child Protective Services, and DHS guidelines, as they are private entities. They are not state or federal agencies. They are operating and exercising authority beyond their contracts. Children should not be removed from a family without proof of a crime and a signed warrant. False accusations and reporting by individuals and CPS DHS personnel shall be addressed and will be punishable by law. Focus will be given to investigating child trafficking and its end. With the elimination of child trafficking, adoption will become easier and made more affordable for those legitimately pursuing parenthood. Under no circumstances will the legislature be able to overrule a legitimate vote of Oregon citizens. Such bills will be vetoed. Guarantee an honest accounting of our state budget by implementing zero baseline budgeting and full transparency. Zero-based budgeting is a method of budgeting in which all expenses must be justified for each new period. The process of zero-based budgeting starts from a zero base, and every function within an organization is analyzed for its needs and costs. The budgets are then built around what is needed for the upcoming period, regardless of whether each budget is higher or lower than the previous one. In business, zero-based budgeting allows top-level strategic goals to be implemented into the budgeting process by tying them to specific functional areas of the organization, where costs can be first grouped and then measured against previous results and current expectations. Because of its detail-oriented nature, zero-based budgeting may be a rolling process done over several years, with a few functional areas reviewed at a time by managers or group leaders. Zero-based budgeting can help lower costs by avoiding blanket increases or decreases to a prior period's budget. PERS leveling. There should only be one level for PERS. Recovery of PERS money from China management. Recovery of all lands in Oregon owned by foreign entities and controlled by the federal government. Under the Apache County resolution, we can take back all Forest Service and BLM lands and put them back into the county control and management. This is the right thing to do and will provide for legitimate management of our forests. Eliminate eminent domain. Evaluate for repair or removal of the Bureau of Reclamation. It's obvious the people that have been appointed to run the Bureau of Reclamation are definitely stepping out of bounds in the course of doing their job. They keep referring to a number of things that supposedly justifies what they're doing by draining reservoirs and subsequently preventing farmers and ranchers from getting the water that they need to operate. Reclaim local county jurisdiction of BLM, U.S. Forest Service controlled forest and land management through, as I mentioned, the Apache County resolution process. Engage forest management. Reinstate county level timber industry. And by the way, that levels the playing field for all the timber industry, not just the chosen top dogs. Conduct a comprehensive audit of Oregon's budget, annual finance report, and general fund for waste, fraud, misuse, and abuse. Recover illegally dispersed funds. Review the process whereby taxpayer funds are invested while the state keeps the profits. Issue being no credit to the taxpayer. The counties do this too. We've had a problem with our kicker and not having that kicker come back to Oregonians. There's a reason. It's a lot of money. And if you know anything about the legislature and our governor, they like spending your money. It's time to give it back. Address and reduce the homeless population by the return of out-of-state imported homeless back to their home state at that state governor's expense. 2, the homeless must pass E-Verify for program entrance and benefits. Illegals will be handed over to ICE or returned to Obama Biden's front yard, forfeiting all welfare benefits. 3, legitimate Oregon homeless to be evaluated for drug, alcohol, and mental illness. Through job and life skills training, use existing Oregon programs. We will attempt to transition them into becoming a contributing citizen and or receive the care they need. A homeless prevention program will be a top priority, along with an update to our archaic mental health system. We do actually have good programs in Oregon for the homeless, but right now they are full of illegal immigrants. This is a problem. Illegal immigrants are being given priority over our own. That has to end now. Reduction of licensing and fees across the board, notably in the areas of fishing and hunting. Update the Oregon Penal Criminal Code and sentencing laws regarding, but not limited to, arrested during a riot, remain in jail until you stand before a judge, participate in a riot, forfeit state benefits and grounds for termination from state employment. Strike any law enforcement officer, mandatory 6 months minimum jail sentence. Violent assembly will become a felony. Block a roadway, a felony. Drivers who pass through such human blockades will not be charged, but damage to vehicles may be recovered by drivers. Destruction of property, public or private, under violent assembly or rioting, felony. Out-of-state participant in a riot, enhanced sentence and felony. Municipalities that defund the police will be defunded of future state grants and other financial aids. Local governments that refuse to provide adequate protection for citizens and property during a riot will forfeit sovereign immunity protection and be charged with a felony, and further allow citizens to sue local government agents and officials individually for compensation. And by the way, when a government official violates your personal civil rights, they are now open to being sued individually. Failure of district attorneys to enforce legitimate criminal charges, felony. Candidate reform, transparency on all candidates and elected officials regarding their biases, predisposition, and preferences. Candidate and elected officials report card system. This would also actually include judges. Petition the federal government with support from all governors to fully address illegal immigration and road to citizenship. Comprehensive criminal background check for all current illegal immigrants. If they are criminals, then they go back. If they are not, then they get to go through the federally approved citizenship process. Reevaluate and revisit the past sponsorship program and quicken the pace for those who have already chosen the legal path to American citizenship without expense to the taxpayers. Priority for all immigrants to learn the English language in support of eliminating elements for division. The removal and end of the Oregon Health Authority, OHA. It began in 2016 to consolidate power towards a socialist Oregon agenda. Its failure and waste of billions of tax dollars a year must come to an end. And the Oregon Chinese Council, as it has done nothing to help Oregonians, but plenty to help China. Those guilty of treason will be held to account. I will note that the Oregon Chinese Council is in full support of the implementation of Agenda 2030 and its 17 stated goals. These goals do not benefit America. They do, however, compromise our freedom, our liberty, and our sovereignty. And anybody who supports Agenda 2030 is guilty of treason. Year 2. Remove the superintendent of schools' title and duties from the authority of the governor's office. Currently, the governor wears 2 hats. One is governor and one is the superintendent of schools. This has allowed Kate Brown to implement all these indoctrination processes to the schools just like that. By removing that superintendent, it creates a little bit of a gap. And this will be possibly a person that's elected by the people and or possibly appointed by a governor. Either way, this has to be worked out. And then, of course, the selection of a suitable replacement and process for appointment. Address the potential for a lieutenant governor position. We don't need governors that are removed legitimately being replaced just by a secretary of state. Audit all elected officials for campaign finance reform and accountability. Basically, there's an awful lot of good old boy systems going on, and we need to address that. Address issues of veterans' claims and assistance for full and proper completion for submission. Organize a federal review of policies and procedures for state-level veteran assistance. A lot of money gets spent, and spent not very efficiently. Term limits for all elected officials, notably the legislature. We have seen compromised legislators literally running for high ground as they get exposed for them not representing the people. This is a big problem we have in our legislature. We all are responsible to know who we're voting for or to find good candidates to run and represent us in the legislature. Oregon State Guard. This is not the National Guard. This is to establish a state guard in accordance with the state constitution militia mandate, which will also be integrated into an emergency action plan for all of Oregon in support of citizens through natural catastrophes. With the recovery of the U.S. Forest Service and BLM land back to the counties and state through the Admissions Act, and which original Oregonians were not allowed to vote on when Oregon became a state, activation of the sixth proposition within the Admissions Act will be put to the people to vote on. This will provide every Oregonian with the opportunity to own land as intended through the Admissions Act. The first act of the first Oregon legislature was a tax act. The Homestead Act is an act of Congress created to give wealth to American citizens. Owning land is the opportunity to start building wealth. And Oregon was denied this in the beginning. And it's something we can rectify to a certain degree and give, especially our young people, the generations who've been carved out of our economy and owning a home, a chance to actually do exactly that. Adoption of Seth Keshel's 10 points to true election integrity. All voter rolls dumped and all legitimate voters re-registered with appropriate means of confirmation to eliminate illegal and double registering of voters. Ban on all electronic election equipment, including poll books, voting machines, and tabulators. Paper and pencil balloting granted only with valid ID. A voting holiday, probably a Wednesday. This will greatly reduce the chances of fraud. Mail balloting will be illegal except for overseas military, legitimately disabled with appropriate approval with supervision, and professionals unable to vote on election day, doctors, pilots, people that can't quite break away from what they're doing. No early voting. Counter with more and smaller precincts. We've done this in the past. We've done it successfully with legitimate, solid elections that we can all trust. We need to get our election system back to a point where we all can trust it. Precincts would be under 1,000 voters. No ballot harvesting. Ballot harvesting will be illegal and punishable by 10 years in prison. And then they'll get chances to attend the Central Oregon tent city. Winners will be announced by midnight. Somehow, Florida and Texas can tally 10 million plus votes 90 minutes after the polls close. But Pennsylvania needs 4 days and California 4 days. Oregon can handle 2.5 million votes before midnight. 10-year prison term for anyone caught restricting access for members of any party to observe election procedure. This includes the TCF Center, etc. Ballot harvesting, repeat ballot scans, or other means distorting elections. I hereby pledge myself to this contract with Oregon. This contract is meant to build and restore the lost bonds of trust between Oregonians and their elected representatives. I offer a pragmatic statesman approach to what I will do to repair, restore, and renew our state, its legislature, and the faith of its citizens in state government. The commitment is my commitment to every Oregonian. Oregon has been under the control of suspect, private, political, and ideological influence for far too long. In 30 years, I have yet to witness a better or improved Oregon. What I have witnessed is not only the destruction of our timber industry, but the oppression and tyranny of our private property rights with taxation, excessive and growing costs of licenses, fees, and permits, the growing tumor of a hidden sales tax, and the growing control over our private lands. This includes such things as recycling fees. It's a tax on such items as paint. The elimination of plastic bags and a fee tax to use paper bags unless you bring your own bags. These are subtle, overreaching, unconstitutional methods to force people to comply with an agenda. This is not freedom, but outright tyranny. 2022 offers an opportunity to unite all Oregonians under real leadership that will include the state legislature. As your governor, I will set the bar and build a legacy to hold future representatives fully accountable. We need to shrink our government, rein in irresponsible spending, reduce regulation, engage real transparency, and provide an environment where our children and grandchildren can enjoy a quality of life that many of us experienced in the past. I want all Oregonians to be able to afford a home, own land, and not be burdened by excessive taxes and fees brought about by an administration that lacks fiduciary responsibility. Having fought to expose and remedy election fraud, I know the enemy we are up against. We've had to fight diversionary candidates, uniparty elements, and controlled opposition. We have had to fight back against the corrupt Secretary of State Elections Division. It has become painfully obvious that preventing my name from reaching the 2022 ballot is their goal, and a serious issue to the point of breaking state law. I won't give up, and I won't surrender. How do I get to the end and win for Oregon? There is a way. Together, you and I can create a state that reinforces strong American family values and builds on the best traditions of the past while protecting federal and state constitutional rights. I pledge to be kind but fierce. As I dedicate myself to these tasks, I will bring real accountability on all levels, as Oregonians have called for. What makes us all great is that when things are at their worst, we are truly at our best, and I truly believe the best is yet to come. Thank you for taking the time to get to know me, and please share this far and wide. Thank you, Oregon. Thank you for your trust and your vote. I won't let you down. So please remember, vote November 2022, and you're going to have to write me in, Paul Romero, for governor. And be sure to fill in that oval. This is going to require a conscious effort on the parts of all Oregonians. And I've heard the arguments about you're splitting the vote. I got news for you, people. The vote is already split. It's split 3 ways right now. And the 3 ways that it's split, most of Oregon does not want to vote for any one of them. And that has become painfully apparent. So for me, as a write-in candidate, well, you know where I stand. You can learn all about my history as a veteran. You can learn about my whole life. I've been an open book and, to be honest, a Boy Scout. So you have a choice to make, Oregon. What do you want for the next 4 years? Who do you feel you can trust the most? Those who refuse to tell you what they're going to do? Those who refuse to tell you about all the new taxes that are already in the pipeline to come out for next year? The people that actually know and are running for office but haven't told you? Or someone who's actually telling you the truth and also telling you what we're going to do about it? So with your help, that's how we win this. I've listened to people complain, oh, he's just campaigning just to make money. No, I don't do this to make money. If that was the case, I'd be looking for millions and millions and millions of dollars, which we've not operated on. As a matter of fact, we've operated on less than $16,000. This is how campaigns are supposed to be run. Low amounts of money, high amounts of volunteers, and get the word out. And, you know, if you can't represent people you can't relate to. And for me, I knew the Oregon that I grew up in. And I know that that is not now. And I know the Oregon I want to retire in and live out the rest of my days. And that's not it right now. What we have now is not it. And I know that's the case for most all of Oregon. So it's time for Oregon to make a stand, to step up, do the right thing, to not give up, to not surrender. It's a responsibility that we all have. And I hope that each and every one of you will take it to heart and help me accomplish this. Because, see, no candidate does these things by themselves. They never have. It always takes a team. They may not want to give you credit. They may not want to tell you. But that is the reality. Okay? So I want to say thank you very much for being here. Thank you for taking the time. Please share this video far and wide. You can find it on Rumble. You'll be able to find it on YouTube as well as here on Facebook Live. And again, Oregon, thank you. And we can do this. We can make Oregon ours again. Thank you.